We
Yes,
lie.
episode number 48. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
This is
Unbelievable.
the last year. I think we have two more to hit a major milestone, which will be our 50
Yes.
episode, our 50th episode.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yes, get that right. It's like you block my handsome face.
All right.
Great. We
Yeah.
live. We live. Good. At least framing yako leo iko sawa. Nilikuwa na check video last time.
Mm. Kichwa
You are
ilikuwa
like,
kulikuwa na space juu. You
there's
normally
a lot of
say,
space.
we live, we learn.
We live, we learn.
Yeah.
Initially, and I guess that's why, the minute you get into this game, you now begin understanding sort of the
Mm.
technical elements of it. It's like the way
Mm.
even now when I watch movies or I
Mm.
watch somebody's vlog, I
Mm.
can already see all the technical elements that have gone into producing that. To some degree, some of them are so good at it. Sometimes you wonder if there was any forethought behind it. And there was actually. Some already have a formula that
No
they follow.
wonder, no
Such that
wonder
it's so
movies are so
effortless.
expensive to make.
Yeah?
No wonder movies are so expensive to make.
Yeah, man.
You are paying, those people are paid by the hour to do that work.
And can you imagine how many takes they have to take? Somebody will tell you that 5 minute clip that you saw took us 2, 3 days to.
In fact, it's not
You're
really
like,
much
just
of
5 minutes.
it's not really much about the equipment. It's more of the expertise, because
Mm,
you can use a very good crew can work with rudimentary equipment to do magic.
correct.
Mm. A
I
16
mean, you see what?
megapixel a 16
Mhm.
megapixel camera with stabilizer with an excellent crew behind it can do wonders. Only a 16 megapixel lighting and a stabilizer, you can come up with a wonderful documentary as long as you have the
I
right people
mean,
behind. But
there
you
there
can
are
have
movies.
equipment worth thousands of dollars
Mhm.
and a puny crew, and you wonder, hey, what the hell happened? What's this?
Correct,
So
correct.
that's what we're talking of. In fact, I was a bit busy. I missed out on there was like an online, like some sort of a Twitter webinar about AI. Then I
Mhm.
coincidentally tweeted a video of a robotic fuel pump attendant for filling vehicles. It's
I
a
saw
robot
it. Yeah,
that,
you shared it with me.
yeah. So you can imagine uh, skills like filmmaking. AI has a very long way before it replicates that, because a filmmaker is an artist. And
100%.
whenever I talk to Eric Babu, he tells
Mm.
me AI uh, can only go as much as doing repetitive tasks.
Mhm.
Because whenever you tell AI to design something and you say, design for me this, it will mostly pick out, it will blend a lot of objects that are already on the internet. But a good designer will sketch something, scan it, then give AI a certain set of commands for it to do a thing. So, uh, like this guy I listened to on the daily called Eddie Pinero, he said that he once told ChatGPT, please give me Eddie Pinero speeches. And the outcome was weird. He just spat out
Mhm.
some repetitive statement over, and it was like a B minus version of what they saw. AI will only replace you if whatever you're doing is highly repetitive, highly predictable. AI will
Predictable,
take
yeah.
you. AI will replace you. Like now, the fuel attendant thing, the robot is already there.
Yeah.
There's a place. I think was it in France or where we had a robot waiter. a robot that serves
Oh
food.
yeah. Don't you remember even Akina Kibe and George
Mm,
took us to a restaurant somewhere in I think Austin, Texas, where they were
mm.
literally served by a robot.
Yeah.
And
So
already, somebody even the other day shared. I think it was Larry Mado. I think he was at Schiphol Airport in
mm,
Amsterdam, and literally the person waiting on him was a robot.
yeah.
Like literally like clearing the table. You just hand it over to a robot. There are a few human elements here and there, but
Mm,
or other human beings that are helping. But yeah, it's because now, I mean, you've had the whole issue in the West that they can't even get people to go to work
yeah.
because the government is already, and I mean that's why this thing of what do they call it, universal basic income,
Mm,
um it's I don't understand it at all, eh?
mm.
um and I presume actually the COVID sort of, it was discussed before COVID, but I think COVID probably justified why it should be there, and but it has had a very adverse effect because if you're gonna pay somebody about 15 to $2,000 a month, that guy is already incentivized to just stay at home and wait for the government to pay him or her. So there's no incentive to go and work. So that's what's happening in the West. People aren't motivated to work because the government can support them.
Mm.
So what does it mean? You've got to bring in some kind of robotic help to support that. I mean, the other one is, that's why you're seeing also a lot of this immigration issues also happening because then they bring in cheap labor. If you bring in a guy from Africa or from South America, him is ready to be paid far much less than what an ordinary American or a European is paid because where he's coming from, already getting paid $5 to $8 per hour is a major upgrade for them. So
Yeah,
they'll
it's
take
like
it.
I
And
think we discussed this on phone.
yeah,
Like what you're earning, let's say in America, let's say that $8 per hour,
yeah,
and you are saving say $2 per hour to go buy a plot in Kamun. You can even after 3 years you can buy 5 plots. But that Caucasian there, he doesn't have any use for that money. He's hand to mouth. So it's
hand
a
to mouth.
very it's a very strange type of thing. But then again, it comes down to one thing that that's why in the Middle East, or most likely the Saudis, did it very well, whereby weddings are very expensive. Getting to be being married is very expensive, in that you have to be above a certain financial bracket for you to start a family. In fact, this thing has been existing for quite a while because there was a time when I was small. I think in primary school there was a news article that some Saudis or whatnot were fleeing the country to go get married in Bangladesh. So they'll come back to Saudi with a Bangladeshi marriage certificate, and the marriage certificate is universal. So they were trying to beat the system like that. I don't know if they tied it. So I normally say when broke people give birth, things get fucked up.
Mm.
When broke people give birth, we have slums, we have funny, shitty places because these are people who are now operating on a what do you call it, third tier type of existence, and they are on survival mode. And when you are surviving, anything goes. Then it creates a very huge ecosystem of puniness. So I think the guys in Saudi and I think Dubai or whatever that country is called, they thought way ahead of that. Even back in the days, I think medieval times, uh, they would really limit peasants. Peasants will not really be. very much on the marriage thing. Or a peasant would give birth to another peasant whose job is to work for the royalty. So, in this situation, now bring it to the modern world, there's not much of royalty to work for. So, you're giving birth, you have to struggle to get work, put food on the table. So, the system gets screwed up. So, your offspring grow up, see you struggling. Your offspring grow up believing that life is difficult, but life is difficult for you. Difficulty of life is not universal, like the way the system has made us to. It's not universal. You can say air is free, that is universal. You need access to clean air, yeah, that is universal. But difficulty of life is, I to in my view, that I would also, I don't know, I'm not supposed to blame, you're not supposed to blame parents, but the situation is you are born to people who are not supposed to give birth. That's why you are facing this situation. The difficulty that you are facing is for you. It will be acceptable if the difficulty is for everyone. So the question, why are you having difficult situations? Oh, I was born to this family. Why did they give birth? So some of these things, they look medieval and they look old fashioned, but when you look in the grand scheme of things, you look, we placed ourselves in this situation. We put emotions into it of being in love, meeting your soulmate. What has your soulmate got to do with you when you are earning 40,000 per month? What are you talking about soulmates? You are netting in. You have a gross of 50,000. It gets chopped out to 38. What business do you have with soulmates and falling in love and having children to continue a generation? You see, there's continuation is continuation of something meaningful. If something is bad, uh, either you stop it or you must have a very powerful grand plan somewhere in the works. Like when you hear of these big families, you hear there's a great great grand grandfather who did something completely different. You hear maybe he used to be a servant somewhere, he used to be maybe a gatekeeper or something like that, and he did some outlandish, even maybe even criminal things somewhere. A huge stack of money was attained and things turned around. But if you are going to be just there with your 33,000 shillings salary and you are living in some, I don't know, 6,000 shillings bedsitter with your wife and small toddler, uh, the odds are really stacked against you and your offspring. Yes, there's the miracle of humble beginnings, rags to riches, but what is the percentage? How many rags to riches out of 1,000? How many rags to riches systems do we have? How many have we had in the last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Majority of the rich folks here are either is a continuance or someone who had some form of advantage. A parent who was not rich but had access to rich people or had a job with a six-figure paycheck, which gave him some bit of a vantage point to boost the kid. But if you are there with your net pay of 33K, your kid has a very, very uphill task ahead of you. And I find it particularly, personally, I find it very bad to bring up your kid to face difficulties. It's not a good. It's like you are a lion, then you bring a cub to be hunted by other lions. The cub is supposed to be hunting. It's part of the lion. It's supposed to be the predator. When you set your son or your offspring to be a prey, you are preyed upon by, let's say, your employers. If he's a daughter, is preyed upon by, sugar daddies and whatnot, because you don't have access to the rich. The rich marry the rich generally. So I think we are paying the price for putting emotions into things. There are some decisions that have to be tackled head on using logic. And now, after decades and decades of emotions, this is where we are. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't know if you're hearing the rain,
There's
or
no rain,
maybe
bro. Fire away. There's no rain. Fire away.
no. It's good. I wanted to confirm if the mic has cancelled out the background noise
Mm,
on my
mm,
side,
mm.
which is good. At least if it's not picking that up, that's great. Yes, the world has become too emotional. I think it has all been in an effort to be, I would say, because I don't think substantively what the world is trying to achieve is achieving. And let me give an example. I think in the effort to be seen to be, and actually is to be seen rather than actually achieving the goal of what they term as, it could be either equality, or it could be aspects of inclusivity. This is in many sense what is driving the emotionality in how decisions are being made in the current or in the contemporary world that we live in. So, you know, we've left merit. It's no longer about merit. It's about being able to carry more people along,
Feel good.
being able to. It's a feel good. Definitely. I think you've attacked it. So it's a feel good. It's sort of perspective that we are trying to push. That's what I'm saying. Is one to be seen, and in many ways, in the effort to be more inclusive, you're actually ending up being more divisive. In the effort of trying to be more, or to be, it's more of a PR campaign. A lot of organizations now have this as even their goals. Want to have more women, want to have more disabled people, and all this. I can see the benefit to some degree, but in many ways, we've elevated that over the real value, which is driven more by being objective, being logical, um, and the like. I mean, even the disorder we are seeing, that is imagined mostly in the West, where there's increased crime,
From
people
the
are able to
immigrants.
lift, all these kind of things that are happening. It's all okay. Let's not be too tough on them. We'll give them a lesser sentence. We'll probably not prosecute if somebody hasn't stolen beyond a certain amount. I mean, theft is theft. So, again, in the idea of let's all be inclusive and put people on the same income level, we'll give them a basic salary. But what does it do? It generates, bummers. People just couch potatoes, or
Hangers on.
people end up going into drug abuse because, when you're idle, your mind wanders. They say an idle mind is what? The devil's
That was
workshop.
what for. It's
So
like
you probably end up
when
going into all manner of ills. It could be an addiction or a bad habit, one thing or the other. Yes.
it's like you in a corporation, you say open door policy. The open door policy, it also has to have a limit. You can't have the open door policy on the chairman's office or the CEO. Chairman and CEO, the open door policy is limited to some people. There has to be a certain, but because if you say open door, then some hoodlum from the street there or somebody who scrubs toilets there comes in and start mouthing off his weird things, and we would assume the guys at the top are involved in extremely intense train of thoughts that you would not want to interrupt. So when you say open door policy, to who? Do you want to feel good? Oh, we can access the CEO easily. Who are you? What the fuck are you going to tell the CEO? This is a corporation, let's say 500 people, and this guy is dealing with decisions concerning the future of the company, 5 year, 10 year, 20 year plans. In the event that he's incapacitated at an instant, what happens? Then you there sitting in your cubicle with your Excel sheet, you had the open door policy. You want to go to see you. Who the
Just
fuck are you
want to
going to
go
get?
barge into his office and thinking you'll get an audience. But the guy has a calendar.
Yeah.
He has to diarize all those engagements and activities.
Yes.
So it kind of it's the same thing that they had. You know that there used to be also that big thing that was all the rage. The idea of an open floor plan
Oh yeah, yeah.
for
Is
the
this there
office.
anymore?
But then people have found people have still maintained it to some sense, but they have realized that it's so destructive that you can't concentrate to do any meaningful work when you're seeing a number of people passing you by. And again, with the open door policy, somebody coming into your office every now and then, you can't have time to think and be able to do any deep work, because any meaningful work requires some deep concentration. You can't just multitask, bro. Remember, even that was also the age of promoting multitasking.
Yeah, that you think we've become too. I think it's just feel good, dopamine driven bunch of people. You want to be seen. Oh, yeah, you want to be friendly to everyone and whatnot. And at the end of the day, you won't be judged by your friendliness. You'll be judged by your efficiency. How well did your organization perform when you are the helm? How well did you perform? Even in your minor, junior, senior, whatever position you're holding, you're not going to be judged on how friendly you are and whatnot, unless you are doing, I don't know, this social activities thing. I don't know, show you are a showman, or but in the actual grind of doing things that are pushing the country forward, those things work in silence, and chances here you are clustered in either yourself or clustered in small units of people whom then you may meet to exchange data and whatnot, and the exchange of ideas, but not this sort of banterish type of thing they are pushing hard on. This kumbaya, overly friendly, welcome anyone, anything goes type of thing that they are telling us. It doesn't make it, unless these are
And,
countries that have made significant
and,
steps.
and you know, this is the thing I'm also struggling, or rather, let me not say struggling, but rather the inconsistency I see with the world. Because that mindset has really crept into almost everything. As you're saying, instead of us measuring people based on output, efficiency, their productivity, we put all these touchy feely elements.
Then you declare bankruptcy
I mean,
after 3 years.
it's the same thing we saw with Elon Musk.
Mm.
You know, when he said, what was it? He told the Disney, he told somebody, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
And that became the
It,
major
it,
news
it, it
outlet.
creates
But
so much noise.
yes, so much
It's
noise,
his
and then it
opinion.
became
So when he tells you to go fuck yourself, do you literally go fuck yourself? You're not going to fuck yourself. That's just a man mouthing off his stuff, and he's the richest man in the world. He has some element of authority to spit out. He has done so much. He has enabled to
and
people to
and that little
write.
statement becomes the very premise to make a decision whether
Mm.
to use his platform to advertise or not. I mean, when you're advertising as an organization, what are the key KPIs you're looking to achieve? One, you're looking to promote your company, promote your brand, be able to sell more of the products that you're
Yes.
producing or
How
services
many
that
people
you're
of your
selling.
target audience are
So
in that platform?
that little statement is inconsequential, totally inconsequential. But that becomes the thing that I see on, you know, can you imagine an entire business channel, Bloomberg Technology, will spend almost half, it's a 45 minutes show, and in between, of course, there are, disruptions and advertisements happening. So you could say it's a 30 minutes show. Half of that time will be spent discussing just that statement. Can we
now
talk
you can.
about how this guy is advancing the green economy? Can we talk about how this guy is advancing space exploration? Can we talk about what this guy is doing through his companies in advancing uh, freedom of speech? I mean, through platforms like Twitter and others. Can we talk about what he's doing and what he's producing than all these touchy-feely things? And maybe just to, before I hand it back to you, today actually on Twitter I was seeing, the former US President Barack Obama, people are castigating him on Twitter because he posted his top 10, I think, songs that he's listening to. Now, I mean, it's not a bad thing to do that. It's good to know what the president is doing, but they felt he's focusing on this or other sort of inconsequential elements, while there are other bigger world issue or geopolitical issue that they would expect that he would be contributing to
He's
and
no
offering
longer
his voice
president.
to. So
He's an ordinary citizen. He
this
can
is
post
what the world
whatever
has
he
become.
wants. Why are you putting responsibility on someone? Barack Obama is only now responsible for his family.
No, I agree with that, but to a lot of degree, even him still being a former president, his voice still counts.
Yes, it does.
It
But there's
counts.
no problem him being a private citizen.
No,
He
there's no
he's,
problem at all.
he has no obligation to be always posting serious stuff. He's a private citizen. There's no office attached to him. For fuck's sake, he's been president for 10 years. In fact, after presidency, he grew old. He grew older. Let the guy have fun, but
No,
that
I agree.
that thing is
I
fucked
mean,
up.
what I'm trying to get at, and I'm saying that argument could be seen in two ways, and I think they all hold water. But just to add credence to my early argument that the world is becoming more softer and focusing on inconsequential things and forgetting the real stuff that requires a lot of mental energy put into place, but we are focusing on all this, as I would put it, generally touchy-feely elements. And I would be interested to see what Barack Obama is listening in terms of the music choices that he has, particularly with now my interest into jazz and those kind of things. But I wouldn't place that as a priority. If I don't get it from him, I wouldn't die. But if I was to look out for some kind of direction or contribution on a certain, topical issue, I would put that as a higher priority. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of in support of what I was arguing.
Okay, he's a former president of the most powerful economy. But you see, I think we are getting a picture of how China is stamping its foot in the global table. Chinese have no time for bullshit. Chinese is a no bullshit system. In fact, there's a certain group of musicians, they were banned because they were men, but they were performing, displaying some rather feminine uh, mannerisms. Are you aware of that? You are you are mute.
Yeah, I remember that issue that they had to remove some broadcasters from TV.
Broadcasters, and there's a certain band of musicians who are actually banned because they were seen as a distraction from the issues you are facing. If you are going to we have no problem with entertainment, but don't present something that now it creates. You see, I would rather go to a concert, listen to the music, enjoy it, then get back to our business. But when you come up with a presentation that makes people discuss something for one full week, you can't. Hapana bwana boss, hii mnafanya makusudi, hii ni kutuzengua akili. You present something, we can
could
go to
distract watu.
yeah, you do your thing. We know this is a male dancing troupe or a male singers with female backup. we listen, we enjoy, we cool off. Baada ya hiyo tunarudi kazi. Not creating a situation whereby you even end up creating a space. Hey, hawa jamaa alikuwa anafanya nini huko bwana? You saw that and what not. So the Chinese, I think the Chinese system was able to smell the bullshit from far, because entertainment can also be a means of sending some agenda through. So the Chinese like, listen, you entertain, but limit it to those underhand messages, message mnapitisha huku chini chini. No, let it be pure entertainment. People listen, then they go back to the grind, because Chinese is all about the grind. These are a bunch of no nonsense motherfuckers. And compared to look at the average American elementary student versus the average American versus average Chinese student. Who's sharper? Who's more focused? The Chinese. These guys are preparing generations ahead. The focus is phenomenal. The amount of money they are pumping into education at lower level, plus the indoctrination, whereby you believe it is either Chinese or nothing else. But the other countries, Europe, America, there's a very weird things going on. Like, oh, in France, you cannot wear hijab and what not. You're not allowed to pray. A lot of weird stuff that are actually a collection of distractions. So it's a challenge to countries like us. But they don't know countries like us. I don't know. Yetu Mungu atusaidie tu. When you look at the leadership talking, like this is heading nowhere. As in, if you ask for 5-year plan, 10-year plan, and it's not just a plan, what is the plan for relevance on the global table? Because currently our relevance is getting aid, right? Sisi ni watu wa kuombaomba, si ndio? Msaada. When are we going to the point of people who actually contribute to those that give aid? How do we turn around that? Is there? I've not seen any planning. I've gone through the media, what not. We are on survival. The average Kenyan is simply bored with everything. We are talking
We
of
actually do have good plans. I think where we lack many a times is our follow through. Because if you had to look at
implementation.
implementation, if you look at our Vision 2030, a lot of the policy plans that government has, many of them have just gathered dust in some government office somewhere, because no one has the discipline and the will to follow it through, because I don't know, there are so many other interests they are trying to fulfill, of course, none of which are for the benefit of the common mwananchi. So it's a sad state of affairs.
You see,
But yeah,
interest will always be there, especially for these countries like us, which are running on what we call copy paste democracy, because this democracy is not our thing, it's just copy pasted. The Chinese don't run on democracy, they have their system that works for them. The Saudis, they don't have the Emiratis, they don't have democracy, they have their system that they have developed on their own and it works for them. Kenyans, we have our copy paste thing that we really don't know who we copied it from. It's a complete mess. So interest will be there, but you must have what you call, in the face of interests, you have to. It will be beneficial if you have to call what you call a common doctrine. And for a country like ours, the number one doctrine should be fighting or managing dollar dependence. So that whenever these interests come from this direction, say, okay, guys, I understand that you want this ABCD, you did this, and these are interests that have to be looked at. But can we work on a common goal of managing dollar dependence? Hiyo tu. Because the moment that one is taken care of, it's like removing infection from your body. Everything flows. Even we can have a very beautiful blend of corruption plus prosperity, like in develop, because in a different world there's corruption. Let them not cheat you that there's no they are among the most corrupt people I know of. But they somehow blended it to the system such that you won't hear things like ati polisi unapiga simu station ati tuma pesa ya mafuta. It's unheard of. So if we take out the dollar dependence, this is a major infection. The rest of these coughs and sneezes and a few bruises in terms of interest here, we can manage them. These interests can exist, and still you'll have water flowing through your taps, which you can open and drink. These underhand interests because let's face it, to be realistic, some of these interests are so powerful. They can flush you out of that seat if you're president easily. A few phone calls and your presidency is in jeopardy. So, in an effort to be realistic, you can manage them, but let's have a doctrine. Our doctrine is very simple. This dollar, this runaway dollar rate has to be brought down to manageable levels. So, these things will flow, these interests will be available. Whoever is having a certain system running can run, but you can go to Kenyatta National Hospital, have a major surgery at a subsidized rate, and you go home, you're in peace. You can board a vehicle, a public service vehicle that runs so well that you think of parking your car and driving on the weekends. There was a major scandal that I was reading about London. London is so fraught with corruption. In fact, it's called City of London Enterprises. It's a business. There are so many underhand dealings, but their system works. We have buses working very well. The London taxis are there. Everything is order. So let's find a way of, rather than talking of a naive way of fighting interests, let's just have a system that works in spite of the interests. Because to be realistic, we don't even know where some of these interests originate from. You can get into a system and you find something, whatever you are calling it a system, is responsible for you being there. Are you going
Yeah.
to fight? Are you going
It's,
to
it's a
fight that?
complex nature of
It's very complex. So the best way is simply to accommodate
human
it.
organization. Yeah.
Right? Or accommodate. Listen. We are not disrupting this thing. We just want the system to work better. So let's say let's have something I suggested some time back. The matatus and whatnot will be terminating their journeys in the outskirts of the city, like the Syokimau and what. Then we have an electrical bus system that runs 24-hour in CBD. And then those people, the so-called people in charge of the system, can run it and make money and make it run so efficiently. So you're even giving them more revenue and the cities become more efficient. You're not risking your life. You're not going to be picked up in Ngong with the bullet holes all over you. Because let's face it, the days of acting like, I don't know, Che Guevara and other so-called mythical freedom fighters, those days are gone. You have to get in, see how we can make things friendly to everyone, and ship out. We are not in Saudi Arabia, not in Dubai, you are not in China or these funny countries where their systems were developed in medieval times. You have to make the system work in your favor, because you will have to be a madman to fight the system. In fact, whenever I hear in campaign promises that, oh, I'm going to fight this system, are you stupid? What are you fighting?
You're
That
gonna
means you're
drain
fighting.
the swamp.
Yeah, I'm going to uproot this thing. Then you are going to uproot yourself.
That's true.
This is maybe
It's
this
so
thing is
entrenched. It's
you are
the same
trying
way,
to
yeah.
whatever is you are trying to fight is like a hydra, and part of the hydra is the one supplying power to your house, plus water and other amenities that you use on the daily. So you are fighting yourself, or are you going to be operating from some island somewhere? You'll be jetting off, then you jet back. Hapana bwana. Find a way of tuning the system to your, because this is where we are now. We find ourselves, you actually have to make peace with these crocodiles and alligators and whatever creatures that you'll find yourself in the swamp with. I remember a former CJ, Willie Mutunga. See, CJ is very close to the presidency. In an interview, said, even if you gave me the presidency free for one day, I will not accept it. That position is screwed up. You only see the president there and you're castigating him. Oh, Ujama, you people are just mouthing off. He himself said, being a so-called champion of justice, one day of presidency, wacha nibaki nyumbani nikikula mzokoi.
The other forces behind there that
Wacha
I
ikae.
guess I think that's what leads to that term of deep state and kitchen cabinets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you listen
And-
to,
Mhm.
there's this channel called Jitenge by a former special branch officer. There are people who never seek elective posts, but they say you vote for whoever you want, we'll deal with him once he's sworn in.
I mean, you've even seen businessmen.
Hmm.
You know those big Indian industrial owners in Kenya. You know, many of them, when they begin to sponsor a candidate, they actually sponsor both ways.
Yes.
They'll sponsor both either the opposition or the guy who is the incumbent. And the idea is whoever wins, they
We are
want to
in.
ensure that they still
Hmm.
get their
You are,
agenda.
you are betting on both sides.
You're betting on both sides. So yeah, and you know there are forces that are still. It's a machine.
It's a machine.
It's what do they
It's
call it?
you to ensure that you engage the
Fuel,
gears properly. You don't go to
Yeah, man.
dismantle the engine. You dismantle the engine, then you won't make any movements. You'll stall the system, and they can stall it for you. A couple of phone calls, one kitchen
But
cabinet meeting.
how do we get to reform it? As you're saying, yes. in a
You don't
practical
reform it.
sense,
You just make
there's,
it. You make it work to your advantage. Make it in such a way that whatever changes you are bringing in, they'll benefit. Like that city transport, 24-hour electric city transport system. Because it won't
and
be free.
you know that idea is not a new one. You remember even in the days of Mutula Kilonzo,
You
that
see, they
park and
made
ride
a
thing,
mistake.
he had already
They
even
made
created
they made a
areas, he had identified areas where it will happen.
no. You're talking about BRT, right?
No, before the BRT came in,
Mm.
there was the park and ride thing, you know, where and he had identified, you know, key places on the outskirts of the city. So, like people come in from the sides of Mombasa Road, they'll
Mm.
park somewhere around South Sea. There'll be a big parking lot, and then there'll be buses that they can hop on
Mm.
and drive them
Did
to
it
town. And then
include
Mhm.
did it include parking lots for matatus?
So the system initially was to be run by buses.
What I'm saying is that we
So
have
matatus actually at that point, I remember during that discussion, they even wanted to eliminate matatus altogether.
that is where the problem occurs.
Because
That's where when you say eliminate this, the matatu cartel, this is a $1 billion industry. My suggestion is this: we have terminais in the outskirts of the city. That's where the matatus terminate. The matatus keep running, but they terminate outside there. Then we have something like a station for the buses, which are always rotating. So the matatus continue, and in fact, it will be better for the Maro because you are shortening their distance. Drop and turn, drop and turn. And in the evening, those buses will be bringing people to the terminal for the matatus to pick. So you've simply created another layer for the system to benefit. So these buses, this system of buses that works very well serves as an income stream for the system again. It's simply about
that's revenue.
Yes, so it's all about looking at these are revenue-driven individuals. So bring us a method of efficiency that adds more revenue to the pocket. When you say, if you want to be friendly with someone, put him in a position whereby more zeros are added into his account. Now you'll be friends forever.
And uh, I mean, even talking about the cartels, yes, and
In fact,
there is a bit of a
with the
there.
increase in the
Uh-huh.
with the increase of terminal around the outskirts, that is even more revenue for the cartels, because each terminal will have its own shadowy group there doing their thing. When you have one group from Mombasa Road, Wingine from, I don't know, Langata and Rongai and
Theta
whatnot,
Road, yeah. Mhm.
yes, you are now creating a ring around the city. So the
Yep.
Matatu cartels are outside surrounding. Then we have the major system that runs the electric buses within the CBD. So it's food for everyone, and Mwananchi
100,
enjoys.
100%. And I mean, I think the idea is not to push them out. The idea is to organize them.
Yes.
So even with matatus, and I still support that idea of eventually facing those matatus out. And I think the goal that they had was actually quite prudent. It was not a way to begin to, um, you know, eliminate them or distance them, but it was over time. They wanted to give them a certain period where now, as those cars begin to age, they are no longer licensing the small minibuses, the small Nissans. They will now license somebody who has a capacity of either 30 to 60 uh, packs in a vehicle. And as you
For
say,
the
so,
you're
so they can
referring to
work on a phase out process
14
for that.
seater, 14 seater, I agree with you. Those are, they're called panel vans. That's when you can just do end of the year. We are not licensing them anymore. Then you
Exactly.
come up with a merger system whereby the circles, for every two matatus, you merge into one minibus, and the business continues. Plain
Exactly.
and
So
simple.
it's the city to organize this. As you're saying, if we were to identify those park and ride,
Mm.
and this is actually very simple to implement because it doesn't require a lot of investment. The only investment probably is to identify areas where you can establish these park and ride locations, put up the infrastructure, could be silos, a parking silo. It could be, several, sort of stations where people can line up, take a bus, take a minibus, and then now just revise the current routing that we currently use for Nairobi City to now incorporate this. So it's very simple. I'm sure if the county of Nairobi were to sit down with all the stakeholders, redo the routes, incorporate a park and ride element at each of the outskirts of the city, immediately you find that you'll have reduced jam in Nairobi dramatically. I mean,
Yeah.
this could be a night and day kind of a change. And I would imagine even many people would go for that because, even with increased fuel prices, no one wants to, be on traffic jam on their personal cars,
I remember
sitting there for burning fuel for over an hour, 2 hours. They would
I,
preferably, and then just make those buses comfortable, make
I
them nice,
remember
airy,
in,
air conditioned, comfortable. Yeah.
in 2021, I think, we tried to pitch a business to someone. We call it the car to bus service. Car to bus service. This is a service that targets car owners in various estates. You do your data collection, let's say Utawala. We set up a parking area in Utawala whereby you register as a car owner. You're a car owner, you register. You're given maybe a key card or something. So you drive your car and you park it there. Then there are going to be a set of 45-seater air conditioned buses that will have a series of drop off points within the town.
Oh, yeah.
Then from 5 o'clock, you get a notification that the bus is now doing its rounds, because it's like a booked service. All right. So from five
Mhm.
o'clock, the bus starts going around picking people, designated passengers. It's a 45-seater bus. Then it drives you and drops you to your parking lot. You take your car. We call it the car to bus service because we looked at, let's say, on average, somebody was paying 25,000 shillings on fuel per month. So 25,000 shillings, if you they say 25,000 in 30 days, that is around 800 shillings per day. I remember this service. It was an Egyptian unit, but they were forced out. I remember. It's
Yeah,
I
I,
think
I can see here that they're only now operating in Egypt and Pakistan.
Pakistan.
But
Egypt was the Egypt,
it had a similar sort of
yeah,
vibe as what you're describing.
but it was not limited to car owners. Anyone. This targeting
Yes,
car
exactly.
owners.
Yeah,
We are
yeah.
targeting that situation whereby you have one big SUV with one or two people. So somebody was talking of 25,000 per month. This is 800 shillings per day, 833. But if we can charge you 250 shillings for a bus that is spacious, air conditioned, has Wi Fi, you can set up your laptop and do your work while seated in the vehicle, and you are only driving your car from your house to the parking lot. I think it seemed like a valid idea, but whoever we were pitching it to had other interest, and things went. But as I said, some of these problems are major business ideas begging for investment. Whenever there's a problem is an opportunity to make money. And it's very sad
Problems and
that someone like
opportunities.
SWVL Swivel has to come from Egypt to show us this. I normally say Kenya is a beautiful country. The number of problems, this is investment begging for money. This is investments, all these problems we are facing. This is investments calling for, hey, put money here. Just link up with the right people. So as Swivel, I don't know, they were eating into Matatu revenue because I used to see their vehicle here in Athi River. They were eating
And
into money.
and I think, as you're saying, yes, all these problems we are facing, these are great opportunities for us to develop a product, monetizable product that we can
Mm,
sell.
mm,
Um, and the thing is, because I'm always shocked, if you think of even cities in Europe, they have more narrower roads than even some of our cities. If you think of a London, because it's an old city,
yeah,
it has narrower roads. So how is it that they are able to control their traffic effectively?
there's the tube train, the London bus, the London
All these
taxi.
elements. So,
They are there.
and I think I remember they were even being commended, particularly. I think it was the 2012 Olympic Games, how
Mm,
they were able to organize traffic so well
mm,
that people didn't even feel the constraint of the availability of roads.
mm.
Um,
Because
so
we have bigger vehicles carrying more people, bigger vehicles carrying more people. And there's a certain device I tried to share with someone. It was called, I used to call it, yeah, I used to call it Kanyaga Power. It works like a tidal power plant. It is fitted on the pavement. Each time you step on it, there's a certain tiny group of springs that bounce up and down and generate electricity. So when people are walking on the streets, generating power to be used in the city. So you
yeah,
find a way of, I don't know how you do it, if you can be a registered Kanyaga power provider, Then at the end of year, you get your dividend because you are working there. You register and you start working. Maybe we can introduce things like what do you call it? Facial recognition. That that is Andrew Mutu, and we see him every day passing here. End of 2020, you get your dividend. Unaangalia, nimetembea Moi Avenue this time of time this year. Here's your 20,000 shillings. It looks outlandish, but it's doable because all these people working and generating power, that is free power.
Yeah,
It
I think
sounds
there was even. Are you the one who shared the one? It's kind of like it's generating like wind power. It's got these panels that when a car passes, of course, that aerodynamic force causes that panel to
it's in
wind up.
they were testing it in Turkey.
Yeah,
In Turkey. Turkey. I don't know if it is working, but it was is it Turkey? One of these European cities. So I don't know if it is already in action, but there are so many things you can do to make use of the huge volume of people in the city. You can roll out that Kanyagapa on one street and see how much power you generate in a day. Then you do for the whole city, then you incorporate the facial recognition so you can register. So each time you are passing within the CBD, the camera captures you. How many times unachapa mguu hapo? Then end of the year you get your dividend. You say, this is the amount
I
of
mean,
power.
even now when you think about solar, because particularly for Africa, which has got almost all year round
Hmm.
power, this should probably be something that we should have incorporated within our building codes. That there should be already some form of panels that we install, because once we know you're going to build a house, you
Yes.
already know the raw materials, like use of either stone or bricks, use of window panels, use of some kind of roofing. It's a given. So the building code should be, you'll have to incorporate some kind of solar power in your house. At least the basic lighting should all be generated from the free solar we get. And then maybe bring in the national grid for only to augment that. So even now that the other day I was hearing the government was now talking of introducing some form of load shedding for the western part of the country because of this new problem. They have said that there is too much power, but the power lines that are supposed to distribute it don't have that capacity, so they need to upgrade that infrastructure. But I mean, I thought also again it's one of those reasons that are created either to support a certain tender, to create a certain problem, all these things. But nonetheless, I think the point is, with our free solar power, we should have figured a way to take advantage of it by incorporating in some form of building code policy that every time you build, and then what they'll do is zero rate any importation of panels.
It's like
Eventually, in support of your early argument of reducing our demand for the dollar, figure out how we do assembly or manufacturing of those panels locally, such that we are producing and
even
consuming locally, and surplus is exported. So yeah,
an act of an act of parliament can say any commercial building must have 50% of power getting from green energy.
a
And
simple
if
statement
and
overnight it
if
changes everything.
and if the building is 100% green, if it is in town, the building rates, we get like a 80% waiver on building rates. If you can achieve 100% green without interrupting, keyword 100% green without interrupting building operations. So the more green you go, the lesser rates you are paying.
Yep,
There's going to
100%.
be a craze. Everyone will be putting, and then we'll have periodically inspectors coming to check if indeed those installations are working. We'll be setting stage for an entire solar and lithium battery assembly industry. Because any commercial building that you put up, minimum, you must have a minimum of 30% supply. 30% is a minimum. You go above 50, the discounting rates start popping up. One act of parliament, the beautiful thing about business is very quick to reacting to the environment. You just say that compulsory 30% should come from green. Solar panels start being imported. Then you say you go above 50% power, the rates start going down. Somebody do some mathematics. Why can't they just start assembling these panels locally, plus the lithium batteries? Imagine how many commercial buildings are in Nairobi. How many commercial buildings are in Nairobi? And look at the amount of pressure we'll be relieving on the power supply. It will be crazy, crazy. And that's why I say I think maybe we are the crazy ones here. We are a bunch of mad people. But some of these things look so simple. It
Yeah,
tells
bro.
you you have to be
It's
very careful. We have to be very careful who we put in parliament. Because with the MPs, see, presidency, that is something else. The interest behind it. But MPs, senators, governors, that is within us. Senators, MPs, whatever, those, that is now your vote counting. That one hakuna interest all, and it is your vote counting. For the big city, you wachia wazito, wachia deep state, you have no business dealing with that one. But
yeah,
MPs,
because
senators,
that's
governors,
true.
these are the people who push these motions.
Because the devolution has given us some
Mm,
level of independence and autonomy,
mm,
such that w- we don't have to necessarily say we are influenced by national government. National government will give us our allocations, how we use the money is up to us as a county. And we've just actually the other day there was those reports we saw of how a lot of the money is being wasted in both local and international travel. A lot of it not justifiable travel at all. It's just joyriding. People just wanting to go because ni pesa ya umma, they
mm,
get to they get to misuse it as they wish.
mm.
So devolution nonetheless has given us a level of autonomy, uh, but it's only a few of the governors who are showing us what's possible. I think the only bright light now seems to be places like Kisumu. Machakos used to be one. Again, there is also an overall culture in the entire machinery system that we call government, from national down to county government, where a lot of it is built around rent seeking, it's built around wastage, it's built around, all these nefarious things. And as you say, I think what you said earlier was so instructive, because that's what I'm wondering. How, as much as we understand there's gonna be corruption, that's the real world we live in. But how can we ensure that corruption does not cripple us, or does not mean having zero government services? Because even in all these countries that we admire out there, from the UAEs and others, yes, there's corruption, but you
It's
still
like
find there's a functional road with
it's
no
like your
pothole.
body. Your
There's a
body,
functional government
there's
service.
some there's some bacteria doing something in your body. It only becomes when the bacteria multiplies to a certain level is when you go down. So why don't we say this corruption, we ensure that this system they get their tech nuclear neo in the meantime less, because believe you me, the system or the deep state will benefit more when the system runs well. More people getting jobs, more people getting into Nairobi on time, more people doing this, the system will
We become
benefit.
a richer country. We become a
Yes,
richer country, and even but you know again, we are the crazy one, but because when you think about it, where greed comes in
Mm,
and selfishness,
mm,
the kind of rationalization you are making here,
mm.
that clearly shows that the benefit is higher if we are more prudent and diligent, does not drive a person who is driven one by lack or scarcity mindset, who is driven by greed.
We
Yeah.
are describing first world corruption in a third world country. It's a very different kind of thing. Like when this joke I had, someone, a leader from Africa, goes to I don't know, in Europe, then a minister tells him, here in Europe we also believe in eating. You see that road, I got 10%.
Yeah,
That bridge 5%. So he comes to
I
this
know that
other
joke.
side. He tells you, see that road, I got five. What road? Mm. So
100%.
mm, 1 hour, smooth flow, free flow. This is just, I think it's one of the best episodes of it. We just flew. This is among the best. This is among the best episodes I've ever
And
been.
sometimes I'm like, what are we going to talk about?
And then boom, things
And then
fly.
before you know it, an hour just flown by.
Mm. So I don't know. We didn't have our usual team, but anyway, uh,
I
can
think
I
there are
tell you
some that are
adios?
watching behind the scenes that are not showing themselves on the chat line.
We
Whoever it is,
appreciate
I
you
mean,
from your
they,
invisible
they can watch it
positions.
live. They can watch it the recorded version. But
Mm,
yes, we thank each and every one of you, whoever you are, for
yeah.
your company. And yes, this is the last one for
For
2023.
this year, for 2023, and we say you do not wait for the year to do something, you do it tomorrow, because tomorrow is the first day of the rest of your life. So, can I say adios? Adios.
Yeah.